Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when the most powerful statement we can make is no statement at all. In a world that is constantly noisy, filled with distractions, endless conversations, and opinions, we often forget the profound strength that lies in silence. Today, I want to speak to you about something that is easily overlooked, yet is one of the greatest tools at our disposal: silence. When used with wisdom, silence becomes more than a simple absence of words. It becomes a weapon. It becomes a force of clarity, a vehicle for introspection, and a tool for influence. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness, but in reality it is a gateway to understanding, control, and influence in ways that words can never achieve. We live in a society that encourages constant expression, where everyone feels the need to speak, to be heard, and to weigh in on every issue. But those who have mastered the art of silence have learned that there is a time to speak and a time to refrain from speaking. And in that restraint, there is an unparalleled strength. Silence, when applied with purpose, can change the course of a conversation, can disarm an adversary, and can open doors to wisdom that we would otherwise miss. In this journey, we will explore how silence in its many forms can become your greatest weapon. Whether in personal reflection, dealing with challenges, or engaging in relationships, silence can shape outcomes in profound ways. This is not about being passive, but about mastering the art of when to hold back, when to observe, and when to allow silence to speak louder than any words ever could. So today, as we embark on this discussion, let us delve deep into the concept of silence and understand how, when wielded correctly, it can transform your life, your relationships, and your influence in the world. Silence brings clarity. In the constant noise of everyday life, clarity is often a rare commodity. We are surrounded by distractions, voices, and opinions that can cloud our judgment and steer us away from the core of who we are. Silence, on the other hand, is the place where clarity is found. It is in the quiet moments, when we step away from the external chaos, that we are able to think deeply and truly listen to ourselves. Without silence, the mind becomes a cluttered space filled with external influences that drown out our own voice. When we embrace silence, we create the space for clarity to emerge. The ability to pause and sit in silence allows us to process our thoughts, evaluate our circumstances, and make decisions that are aligned with our values. Too often, we rush into actions or words without fully thinking them through, because we are caught in the momentum of life's noise. But those who practice silence have the ability to pause, reflect, and then move forward with a sense of purpose and direction. This clarity gives them an advantage in a world where impulsiveness is often mistaken for decisiveness. Furthermore, silence can help us to discern what is truly important from what is merely urgent. It is easy to get swept up in the urgency of the moment, but not everything that demands our attention deserves it. By stepping into silence, we can filter out the distractions and focus on the things that truly matter. In that silence, we find clarity about our priorities, our goals, and our next steps. Silence also offers clarity in our relationships. When we allow space for silence in conversations, we are better able to listen to the other person and understand what they are truly saying. Too often, we are preparing our response while the other person is speaking, missing the deeper meaning behind their words. But silence, when used intentionally, creates a space for understanding, for empathy, and for connection. Moreover, silence brings clarity to our emotional state. Emotions can often cloud our judgment, causing us to react in ways that we later regret. But when we give ourselves the gift of silence, we create the space to process those emotions before they spill out in unhealthy ways. This silence allows us to respond to situations with wisdom rather than react out of emotion. In the end, silence is a tool that brings clarity in every area of life: our thoughts, our actions, our relationships, and our emotions. When we learn to embrace it, we begin to see the world and ourselves with greater clarity and purpose. Silence as a form of control. Silence is often misunderstood as passive or weak, but in reality, it is a powerful form of control. When we choose silence, we are exercising restraint and mastery over our impulses. In a world that values immediate reactions and constant expression, silence is an act of defiance. It is a refusal to be controlled by the noise around us and instead a declaration that we are in control of ourselves. Silence gives us the upper hand because it forces others to respond to our silence rather than the other way around. In confrontational situations, silence can be a disarming tool. When someone expects a reaction, be it anger, defense, or argument, and we respond with silence, it shifts the dynamic of the interaction. Suddenly, the person who thought they had control over the conversation finds themselves on unstable ground. Silence forces them to rethink their approach, to question their assumptions, and often to reconsider their behavior. It is a way of maintaining control without uttering a single word. Moreover, silence allows us to control the narrative in a conversation. When we speak too quickly, we may say things we do not mean or give away information that could be used against us. But when we remain silent, we retain control over what we reveal and what we keep to ourselves. Silence gives us the power to choose our words carefully and to speak only when we are ready. It prevents us from being manipulated by others' expectations and keeps us in control of the flow of communication. In our personal lives, silence is a form of self-control. It is easy to react emotionally to situations, especially when we feel provoked or attacked. But silence allows us to pause and reflect before responding. This pause gives us the opportunity to respond with wisdom and grace, rather than reacting out of anger or frustration. In this way, silence is not just a tool for controlling external situations, but also for controlling our own internal responses. Silence can also be used to control the energy of a room. Leaders who understand the power of silence know how to use it to their advantage. A well-placed pause in a speech, a moment of silence in a meeting, or even a quiet presence in a room can command attention in ways that words cannot. Silence has a way of drawing people in, of creating an atmosphere of focus and reflection. It is a subtle but powerful form of influence. Ultimately, silence is not about doing nothing. It is about choosing when and how to act, and doing so from a place of control and intention. It is a way of asserting our power in a world that often tries to take it away from us. When we master the art of silence, we master the art of control. Silence in reflection and growth. Personal growth and transformation are not loud, chaotic processes. They happen in the quiet moments of reflection, in the silence where we confront ourselves and face the truths we often try to avoid. Silence is the environment in which growth thrives. It is in the stillness that we are able to look inward, to examine our thoughts, our actions, and our beliefs, and to make the necessary changes to become the person we are meant to be. Without silence, there is no space for reflection, and without reflection, there is no growth. Reflection is an essential part of personal development. It allows us to assess where we are in relation to where we want to be. Silence gives us the time and space to reflect on our journey, to evaluate our progress, and to make adjustments as needed. In the busyness of life, it is easy to move from one task to the next without pausing to consider whether we are actually moving in the right direction. But when we embrace silence, we give ourselves the opportunity to reflect on our path and to make sure that we are on course. Silence also allows us to confront the parts of ourselves that we would rather ignore. Growth requires that we face our weaknesses, our fears, and our failures. But this is not something that can be done in the midst of noise and distractions. It requires silence, introspection, and a willingness to sit with the discomfort of self-examination. In this silence, we are able to identify the areas in which we need to grow and to take the necessary steps toward that growth. Furthermore, silence is where we find the wisdom to make changes in our lives. It is in the stillness that we are able to hear the voice of our intuition, to connect with the deeper wisdom that lies within us. This inner voice is often drowned out by the noise of the world, but in silence it speaks clearly. When we take the time to sit in silence, to reflect and to listen, we are able to access the guidance we need to make the right decisions and to grow into the person we are meant to be. Growth also requires patience, and silence teaches us the art of patience. In a world that values quick results and instant gratification, silence reminds us that growth is a slow, deliberate process. It cannot be rushed. When we sit in silence, we learn to be patient with ourselves and with the process of growth. We learn that transformation takes time and that the quiet moments of reflection are just as important as the moments of action. Ultimately, silence is the fertile ground in which personal growth occurs. It is the space in which we reflect, evaluate, and make the changes necessary to become the best version of ourselves. Without silence, we are unable to hear the wisdom that guides our growth. But when we embrace it, we open ourselves up to the possibility of transformation. Silence and emotional mastery. Emotions are powerful, and when left unchecked, they can control our actions, our words, and even our thoughts. However, silence offers us a tool for mastering our emotions. In the stillness of silence, we gain the ability to observe our emotions without being consumed by them. Silence creates a space between stimulus and response, allowing us to process our feelings and choose how to react. This emotional mastery is one of the most profound gifts that silence can offer. Too often, we allow our emotions to dictate our actions. We react in anger, speak out of frustration, or make decisions out of fear. But when we practice silence, we give ourselves the opportunity to step back from the intensity of our emotions and view them from a place of detachment. This does not mean that we suppress or ignore our emotions, but rather that we acknowledge them without allowing them to control us. Silence gives us the power to choose our response rather than being driven by the force of our emotions. In moments of anger or frustration, silence can be a powerful tool for de-escalation. When we are silent, we give ourselves time to cool down, to think more clearly, and to avoid saying things that we might later regret. Silence allows us to respond from a place of calm and reason rather than reacting impulsively. This not only benefits us, but also improves our relationships as we are able to communicate more effectively and with greater empathy when we are not driven by the heat of the moment. Silence also helps us to process difficult emotions such as grief, sadness, or anxiety. In the noise of everyday life, it can be easy to distract ourselves from these emotions, to push them aside or bury them beneath a busy schedule. But in silence, we are able to sit with these emotions, to feel them fully, and to work through them in a healthy way. Silence creates a safe space for emotional healing, allowing us to process our feelings without judgment or distraction. Furthermore, silence helps us to understand our emotions more deeply. When we take the time to sit in silence and reflect on what we are feeling, we are able to identify the underlying causes of our emotions. This deeper understanding allows us to address the root of the problem rather than simply reacting to the symptoms. Silence gives us the clarity to see beyond the surface of our emotions and to gain insight into our emotional triggers and patterns. In the end, silence is a tool for emotional mastery. It allows us to observe, process, and understand our emotions without being controlled by them. It gives us the space to choose our response, to heal from emotional pain, and to gain deeper insight into ourselves. When we embrace silence, we take control of our emotional lives and cultivate a sense of inner peace and balance. Silence in relationships. Communication is the cornerstone of any relationship, but silence is an often overlooked aspect of effective communication. In relationships, whether personal or professional, silence can be just as important as the words we speak. When used wisely, silence can foster deeper understanding, strengthen connections, and resolve conflicts in ways that words cannot. It is not about avoiding communication, but about creating space for reflection, listening, and emotional connection. In conversations, silence can be a powerful tool for active listening. Too often we are focused on what we are going to say next, rather than truly hearing what the other person is saying. But when we allow for silence in a conversation, we create the space for deeper listening and understanding. This silence gives the other person room to express themselves fully without the pressure of immediate responses or interruptions. In this way, silence fosters empathy and connection as we are able to truly hear and understand the other person's perspective. Silence can also be a tool for de-escalating conflicts in relationships. When emotions run high, it is easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment and say things that we don't mean. But when we choose silence instead of reacting impulsively, we create a pause in the conflict that allows both parties to cool down and reflect. This silence can be a moment of reset. where we can choose to approach the situation with a clearer mind and a calmer heart. In this way, silence can help to resolve conflicts more peacefully and effectively. In relationships, silence is also a way of showing respect. When we give someone the space to speak without interruption, we are showing them that we value their thoughts and feelings. Silence communicates that we are willing to listen, that we are not rushing to judgment, and that we are creating a safe space for open and honest communication. This kind of respectful silence can deepen trust and strengthen the bond between individuals. Moreover, silence can be a tool for self-reflection within relationships. Sometimes we need to step back from a relationship and sit in silence to evaluate how we are showing up in that relationship. Are we listening as much as we are speaking? Are we contributing to the growth of the relationship, or are we causing harm? Silence gives us the space to reflect on these questions and to make the necessary changes to improve our relationships. Ultimately, silence is an essential part of communication in relationships. It allows us to listen more deeply, to resolve conflicts more peacefully, and to reflect on our role in the relationship. When we embrace silence in our interactions with others, we create space for understanding, empathy, and connection. Silence as a tool for influence. Influence is often thought of as the ability to persuade others through words, but silence can be just as powerful a tool for influence. In fact, silence can sometimes be more persuasive than words because it creates an atmosphere of mystery, authority, and self-assurance. Those who master the art of silence in their interactions with others are often seen as more thoughtful, more composed, and more in control, which naturally draws people to them. Silence, when used strategically, can enhance your influence in both personal and professional settings. One of the ways silence can be a tool for influence is by creating an air of mystery. When we are silent, we do not reveal all of our thoughts, feelings, or intentions. This can cause others to become more curious about us, to want to understand what we are thinking, and to pay closer attention to what we eventually do say. Silence creates a sense of intrigue, which can be a powerful tool for drawing people in and increasing our influence over them. Silence also communicates confidence. When we are comfortable with silence, it shows that we are not dependent on constant validation or approval from others. This confidence is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who seem self-assured and in control of their emotions. In this way, silence can enhance our influence by projecting an image of strength and stability, which others will want to follow. Furthermore, silence can be a tool for negotiation and persuasion. In negotiations, silence can create discomfort in the other party, causing them to reveal more information or to make concessions in order to fill the silence. It also allows us to listen more closely to the other party's needs and concerns, which can give us valuable insights into how to influence their decision making. By strategically using silence in negotiations, we can gain the upper hand and increase our influence over the outcome. Silence can also enhance our influence by giving us time to think before we speak. When we pause in silence before responding, we give ourselves the opportunity to choose our words carefully and to craft a message that is more thoughtful, persuasive, and impactful. This deliberate approach to communication can increase our credibility and make others more likely to listen to and follow our advice or guidance. In professional settings, silence can also be a tool for leadership. Leaders who understand the power of silence know that they do not always need to have the last word or to dominate every conversation. Instead, they use silence to create space for others to contribute, to listen more closely to their team, and to make more thoughtful decisions. This kind of leadership, which is grounded in silence and reflection, can inspire greater trust, respect, and loyalty from others. Ultimately, silence is a powerful tool for influence. It creates an air of mystery, communicates confidence, enhances our ability to listen and persuade, and projects an image of strength and authority. When we learn to use silence strategically, we can increase our influence in all areas of life. Silence in decision making. Decision making is one of the most important aspects of our lives, and silence plays a critical role in making wise decisions. In the fast-paced world we live in, we are often pressured to make quick decisions without taking the time to think them through. But silence gives us the space to reflect, to weigh our options, and to make decisions that are rooted in wisdom rather than impulse. When we embrace silence in our decision-making process, we create the opportunity for more thoughtful, deliberate, and effective choices. Silence allows us to step back from the noise of external opinions and to connect with our own inner wisdom. In the midst of a decision, it is easy to be influenced by the opinions of others or by the pressure to make a quick choice. But when we take the time to sit in silence and reflect, we are able to tune out the external noise and to listen to our own intuition. This inner voice is often the source of our best decisions, but it can only be heard in the stillness of silence. In addition, silence gives us the space to consider all of our options. When we rush into a decision, we may overlook important factors or fail to consider alternative solutions. But when we take the time to sit in silence and reflect on our options, we are able to see the situation from a broader perspective. This allows us to weigh the pros and cons of each option more carefully and to make a more informed decision. Silence also helps us to avoid making decisions based on emotion. In the heat of the moment, it is easy to make a decision based on fear, anger, or frustration. But when we allow for silence in the decision-making process, we give ourselves the opportunity to step back from these emotions and to approach the situation with a clear mind. This emotional detachment allows us to make decisions that are more rational, balanced, and effective. Furthermore, silence creates the space for creativity and innovation in decision-making. When we are constantly surrounded by noise, it can be difficult to think outside the box or to come up with new ideas. But in the stillness of silence, our minds are free to explore new possibilities and to think more creatively. This can lead to more innovative solutions and more effective decisions. Finally, silence allows us to make decisions that are aligned with our values and long-term goals. When we rush into a decision, we may be tempted to choose the option that provides immediate gratification or short-term benefits. But when we take the time to reflect in silence, we are able to consider how each decision will impact our long-term goals and whether it aligns with our core values. This ensures that our decisions are not only effective in the short term, but also meaningful and fulfilling in the long run. Silence as a catalyst for personal growth. Personal growth is a journey that requires introspection, reflection, and most importantly, silence. Silence is the space where transformation occurs. In the absence of distractions, we are able to look inward, assess our strengths and weaknesses, and make the necessary adjustments to evolve. The noise of the external world often drowns out the inner voice that guides us toward growth, but when we embrace silence, we are able to hear that voice clearly. Silence becomes a catalyst for change, allowing us to develop into the individuals we are meant to be. In silence, we are confronted with our true selves. This confrontation can be uncomfortable at times as it forces us to face our flaws, insecurities, and limitations. However, it is only through this honest self-reflection that growth can occur. When we sit in silence, we give ourselves the opportunity to acknowledge the areas of our lives that need improvement and to take responsibility for our own development. Silence encourages self-awareness, which is the foundation of personal growth. Furthermore, silence allows us to process our experiences and extract the lessons from them. Life is full of challenges, setbacks, and failures, but in the midst of these difficulties, it can be difficult to see the growth opportunities they present. Silence gives us the space to reflect on our experiences, to understand the lessons they offer, and to apply those lessons to our future actions. Without silence, we may continue to repeat the same mistakes, but with silence, we gain the clarity needed to learn and grow from our experiences. Silence also creates the mental space for creativity and innovation, which are essential components of personal growth. When our minds are cluttered with noise and distractions, it can be difficult to think creatively or to come up with new ideas. But in the stillness of silence, our minds are free to explore new possibilities, to think outside the box, and to come up with innovative solutions to the challenges we face. This creativity is not only important for personal growth, but also for achieving success in all areas of life. Moreover, silence fosters resilience, which is a critical aspect of personal growth. In the quiet moments of reflection, we are able to gain perspective on our challenges and to develop the inner strength needed to overcome them. Silence allows us to process difficult emotions, to build mental and emotional fortitude, and to approach adversity with a sense of calm and determination. This resilience is what allows us to keep moving forward even in the face of obstacles and to continue growing as individuals. Ultimately, silence is a powerful catalyst for personal growth. It creates the space for self-reflection, learning, creativity, and resilience. When we embrace silence in our lives, we open ourselves up to the possibility of transformation and growth, and we become more aligned with our true potential. Silence in the pursuit of purpose. Purpose is one of the most profound aspects of the human experience. It is the driving force behind our actions, the compass that guides our decisions, and the source of our fulfillment. However, discovering and pursuing our purpose requires silence. In the noise and busyness of life, it can be difficult to hear the inner voice that guides us toward our purpose. But in the stillness of silence, we are able to connect with our deeper selves and gain clarity on our true calling. Silence is where we begin to ask the important questions: who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? These questions cannot be answered in the chaos of everyday life. They require introspection, reflection, and most importantly, silence. In the quiet moments of reflection, we are able to connect with our inner wisdom and gain insight into our purpose. Silence allows us to tune out the external influences that may cloud our judgment and to listen to the voice within that knows our true calling. Furthermore, silence helps us to align our actions with our purpose. It is one thing to discover our purpose, but it is another to live in alignment with it. In the noise of life, it can be easy to get distracted or to stray from our path. But when we take the time to sit in silence and reflect on our actions, we are able to assess whether we are living in alignment with our purpose. Silence gives us the clarity to make adjustments and to refocus our energy on the things that truly matter. Silence also plays a critical role in decision making when it comes to pursuing our purpose. The pursuit of purpose often requires us to make difficult decisions, to take risks, and to step outside of our comfort zones. In these moments, silence allows us to tune out the fear, doubt, and uncertainty that may cloud our judgment and to make decisions that are rooted in our true purpose. Silence gives us the courage to follow our calling, even when the path is uncertain or challenging. Moreover, silence allows us to stay connected to our purpose in the face of external pressures. In a world that often values material success over personal fulfillment, it can be easy to lose sight of our true purpose. But when we regularly practice silence, we are able to stay grounded in our values and our calling. Silence reminds us of what truly matters and gives us the strength to stay committed to our purpose, even in the face of external pressures. In the end, silence is essential in the pursuit of purpose. It creates the space for self-discovery, alignment, decision-making, and resilience. When we embrace silence in our lives, we are able to connect with our deeper selves, gain clarity on our purpose, and live in alignment with our true calling. The power of silence is spiritual growth. Spiritual growth is a deeply personal and transformative journey, and silence is an essential part of that journey. In the stillness of silence, we are able to connect with the divine, to listen to the wisdom of our souls, and to experience the peace that comes from a deep relationship with our Creator. Silence is not merely the absence of noise, it is the presence of divine stillness, a space where we can experience spiritual renewal and growth. In the busyness of life, it can be easy to become disconnected from our spiritual selves. The constant noise, distractions, and demands of the world can pull us away from the deeper truths of our existence. But when we take the time to sit in silence, we create the space to reconnect with our spiritual essence. Silence allows us to step away from the chaos of the world and to tune into the divine presence within us. It is in this silence that we are able to experience the peace, love, and guidance that come from our spiritual connection. Silence also allows us to listen to the voice of the divine. In the noise of everyday life, it can be difficult to hear the subtle whispers of divine guidance. But in the stillness of silence, we are able to quiet our minds and open our hearts to receive this guidance. Whether it comes in the form of intuition, inspiration, or a sense of inner knowing, silence creates the space for us to hear the voice of the divine and to follow its guidance in our lives. Furthermore, silence is a space for spiritual healing. In the silence, we are able to bring our wounds, our fears, and our doubts before the divine and to experience the healing that comes from a deep spiritual connection. Silence allows us to surrender our burdens and to receive the grace, forgiveness, and renewal that are available to us in the presence of the divine. This spiritual healing is an essential part of our growth as it allows us to move forward on our journey with a sense of wholeness and peace. In addition, silence fosters a sense of reverence and awe for the divine. When we sit in silence and contemplate the mysteries of existence, we are filled with a sense of wonder and gratitude for the divine presence that permeates all of life. This reverence deepens our spiritual connection and allows us to approach our lives with a greater sense of humility, gratitude, and purpose. Silence is a space for worship, for communion with the divine, and for experiencing the sacredness of life. Ultimately, silence is a powerful tool for spiritual growth. It creates the space for connection, healing, guidance, and reverence. When we embrace silence in our spiritual practice, we open ourselves up to a deeper relationship with the divine and experience the peace, joy, and love that come from that connection. Silence as a tool for leadership. Leadership is not only about what we say, but also about how we listen and reflect. Silence is one of the most powerful tools a leader can possess as it creates the space for thoughtful decision-making, deep listening, and authentic connection with others. In a world that often values loud and assertive leadership, the power of silence is often overlooked. However, leaders who understand the value of silence are able to lead with wisdom, empathy, and strength. In leadership, silence allows for deep listening. A leader who is constantly speaking and directing leaves little room for the voices of others to be heard. But when a leader practices silence, they create the space for their team to share their ideas, concerns, and insights. This kind of listening not only fosters a sense of inclusion and collaboration, but also allows the leader to gain valuable information that can inform their decision making. Silence is a tool for gathering wisdom from others and for making more informed and effective leadership decisions. Silence also allows leaders to reflect before acting. In the fast-paced world of leadership, there is often pressure to make quick decisions and to take immediate action. However, silence gives leaders the opportunity to pause, to reflect on the situation, and to consider the long-term consequences of their actions. This reflective approach leads to more thoughtful and strategic decision-making, which ultimately benefits both the leader and their team. Furthermore, silence communicates confidence and authority. A leader who is comfortable with silence does not feel the need to fill every moment with words. They understand that silence can be just as powerful as speech. In moments of silence, a leader can project a sense of calm, strength, and assurance. This presence of mind inspires confidence in others and allows the leader to command respect without the need for constant verbal reinforcement. Silence also fosters empathy in leadership. When a leader takes the time to sit in silence and listen to others, they are able to better understand the needs, concerns, and emotions of their team. This empathy allows the leader to respond in a way that is compassionate and supportive, which in turn builds trust and loyalty within the team. Silence creates the space for authentic connection and for building meaningful relationships in leadership. Finally, silence allows leaders to connect with their own inner wisdom. In the noise and busyness of leadership, it can be easy to lose sight of one's values, vision, and purpose. But when a leader practices silence, they are able to reconnect with their inner guidance and to lead from a place of authenticity and integrity. This inner alignment is essential for effective and impactful leadership, as it allows the leader to stay true to their principles and to lead with clarity and conviction. In conclusion, silence is a powerful tool for leadership. It creates the space for deep listening, reflection, confidence, empathy, and inner alignment. Leaders who embrace silence are able to lead with wisdom, strength, and authenticity, and they inspire others to do the same. The transformative power of silence in relationships. Relationships are the cornerstone of human existence, and silence plays a crucial role in the development and deepening of these connections. Whether in romantic relationships, friendships, or professional partnerships, silence creates the space for understanding, empathy, and genuine connection. In a world where communication is often dominated by words, the power of silence in relationships is often underestimated. However, silence can be a transformative force that strengthens bonds and fosters deeper intimacy. Silence allows for deep listening in relationships. When we are constantly speaking or thinking about what we will say next, we are not truly listening to the other person. But when we embrace silence, we create the space to fully hear and understand the other person's thoughts, feelings, and needs. This kind of deep listening is essential for building trust, empathy, and understanding in relationships. It allows us to connect with others on a deeper level and to respond to them in a way that is thoughtful and compassionate. In addition, silence creates the space for reflection in relationships. In the heat of an argument or disagreement, it can be tempting to respond immediately with defensiveness or frustration. However, silence gives us the opportunity to step back, to reflect on the situation, and to approach the conversation with a calmer and more open mindset. This reflective approach leads to more productive and respectful communication, as it allows both parties to express themselves without the interference of heightened emotions. Furthermore, silence fosters emotional intimacy in relationships. In moments of silence, we are able to connect with others on a deeper, more intuitive level. Words are not always necessary to convey love, support, or understanding. In fact, silence can often communicate these emotions more powerfully than words. Whether it is sitting in comfortable silence with a loved one or offering a silent presence during a difficult time, silence can create a sense of closeness and emotional intimacy that words alone cannot achieve. Silence also allows for personal space within relationships, which is essential for maintaining healthy boundaries and a sense of individuality. In any relationship, it is important to have moments of silence and solitude to reconnect with oneself and to recharge emotionally. This personal space allows for self-reflection and personal growth, which ultimately strengthens the relationship by ensuring that both individuals are bringing their best selves to the partnership. This silence respects the need for individuality within the context of a relationship, creating a balance between togetherness and personal space. Moreover, silence can be a powerful tool for healing in relationships. When there has been a breach of trust or a conflict, words can sometimes exacerbate the situation. But in the quiet space of silence, healing can occur. Silence allows both parties to process their emotions, to reflect on the situation, and to come to a place of forgiveness and understanding. This healing process is essential for repairing and strengthening relationships, as it creates the space for reconciliation and renewal. Silence is a transformative force in relationships. It creates the space for deep listening, reflection, emotional intimacy, personal space, and healing. When we embrace silence in our relationships, we are able to connect with others on a deeper level, to communicate more effectively, and to build stronger, more meaningful connections. Ladies and gentlemen, as we draw this conversation to a close, I hope you have come to see silence not as a void to be filled, but as a powerful tool that shapes our lives. It is in the quiet moments that we find clarity, strength, wisdom, and connection. Silence is not the absence of action, but the space in which the most profound actions and decisions are birthed. Embrace silence as your greatest weapon in navigating life's complexities. Let it guide your thoughts, your decisions, your relationships, and your growth. In silence, we find ourselves, and in finding ourselves, we become unstoppable forces in the world.